Welcome back everyone for a high-flying, all-valley champion, Cobra Kai Season 4 Watch Party. Epic is a word that only barely begins to describe this season. This was the biggest, most jam-packed season ever. It also delivered some of the best television we've had since Season 1. That's not a statement made lightly. I've always felt the first season of Cobra Kai was as close to a perfect season of television as you can get. Season 4, or at least the first half of Season 4, matched that beat for beat. Episode 2, titled First Learn Stand, in particular is the best. This is the episode that the whole show has been building towards. Johnny and Daniel finally learned to work together.
Nobody was more badass than Mr. Miyagi.
With that moment there, a callback to the original movie when Miyagi did the same, the show fully delivered on the promise of its premise. That premise that maybe Daniel and Johnny could learn to get along was part of the larger theme of Season 4. There is no one right way. Someone else's way may also work. Maybe their way works even better. To truly grow as a fighter and as a person, you need to see there's more than one way. Everything in the season revolves around that theme. It flourished when Johnny and Daniel both realized they could learn from each other. They were serious and respectful. The cross-training is capped with Daniel beating the snot out of a bunch of a-hole hockey players in one of the most purely satisfying fights of the season. But unfortunately, this bonding and respect could not last. The re-emergence of Terry Silver changed their bond. Daniel broke away.
Which is why I need to take over our students' training from now on.
Convinced Silver was the bigger threat, Daniel reverted back to his old ways and wanted to go straight Miyagi-Do. Johnny obviously didn't like that. It drove them apart. Johnny took Silver seriously, but he didn't appreciate Daniel's plan to deal with it. It led to the Epic Rematch. Though the fight was a lot of fun, it led to a lot of frustration for the audience. Will they ever be able to stick together? In Daniel's defense, the return of Terry Silver would throw anyone off balance. Thomas Ian Griffith is amazing and a pure delight in this role. Silver is someone who's put his life back on track. He regrets what happened in Karate Kid 3 and thinks what he did was ridiculous. He was on cocaine and doing all sorts of illegal stuff, but now he's successful, rich, got a hot girlfriend, and is a prominent figure in the community. He's also living a lie. Like Cobra Kai, the snake within him never died. It took Kreese to show him that. In a party full of tofu hors d'oeuvres, discussions of a mindfulness app, whatever that is, and that Cobra Kai is
adorable.
Kreese couldn't stand it. Deep down, Terrence couldn't stand it either. It took a while, but eventually there was a spare hairband and the snake was awake once again. Except it's not precisely how Kreese thought. He wants to stick to the deal and instead plays a mind game on Daniel, which works wonderfully. But also Silver's approach to teaching is different. He wants to fight smart. He explains how the lessons can be applied everywhere.
In war, in business, in a fight.
Ultimately worried that Silver was straying from true Cobra Kai, Kreese reasserted his dominance. The psychological wounds on these characters are very stark. Silver falls in line. Even more so, he wants to prove himself to Kreese. That is a running theme in the series. Characters want to prove their loyalty to Kreese for his approval. It's this desire to prove himself to Kreese that alters the direction of Cobra Kai. Silver lures Johnny to the old dojo where he proceeds to kick the crap out of him. Terry is trying to impress Kreese. He assumes Kreese sees Johnny as a traitor, except now there's a reversal.
We agreed to settle this at the tournament, and that's where we're gonna do it.
Kreese is the one who wants to put off the fight. Silver is the one who wants no mercy. This is the turning point for Kreese. All season long, Kreese had been the protector of Cobra Kai.
Karate is not a phase. It's a way of life.
Martin Kove's performance is the unsung hero of the season. His counterbalance to Terry Silver makes for some of the most interesting drama the show has ever seen. But after Silver attacks Johnny at the dojo, Kreese starts rethinking everything. The first big clue is when Robbie is fighting Kenny.
Are you fighting your friend or your opponent?
That is the first time Kreese has ever used the word opponent. I have said many times to look out for the word enemy. It shows a person's dedication to Cobra Kai. Usually we see it when the character starts using the word, like Robbie did at the beginning.
To defeat the enemy, it helps to know the enemy's playbook.
Since the first movie, Kreese has never had an opponent. He has always had an enemy. So even though he's telling Robbie to fight with full force, he's not seeing Kenny as an enemy. It could just be because Kenny is Robbie's weakness, but it's a clear shift. Later at the tournament, he explains to Johnny that he knew if Johnny lost, that it'd send him in a downward spiral. He doesn't want that to happen to Robbie. This brings us to the most important motif of the season. There are many references to history repeating itself throughout the season. This is a reference to the song You're the Best Around. But what's interesting is how the characters view the idea of history repeating itself. If you're Daniel, you want history to repeat itself. You're anticipating it. Daniel wants everyone in Miyagi-Do, so history can do just that. But what about Kreese? He knows mistakes were made in the past. He doesn't want history to repeat itself. He wants it to be different. But the only way to make it different is to act differently. This is a change sweeping over Kreese. When Robbie loses, Kreese is disappointed, but not a furious angry the way he was at Johnny. He kept a cool head. When it came to Tori and Silver wanted her to use the Quicksilver method, Kreese said she should fight her own way. That was Kreese embracing the theme, following the motif. History repeats itself, and if you don't want that to happen, then you have to do something different. The motif is here. It's everywhere.
I pride myself on never making the same mistake twice.
This will probably be worth its own video, but you can see the importance throughout the season. Anthony's expanded storyline was a welcome addition to the show. While his best scene is, again, his back and forth with Johnny, the arc is really enticing. It basically puts him at ends with new student Kenny Payne. Now Kenny is likable from the start. He's a new kid, loves to play Dungeon Lord, and is relatable. Sometimes I found I liked Kenny more than the scenes he was in. It opens with a whole bus laughing at him for dancing at the stop. While maybe kids would laugh at the new kid for dancing funny, I find it hard to believe the kid sitting all the way back here were actively watching him here. I tend to think most kids on the bus aren't paying that close attention. Either way, in a tale as old as The Karate Kid, Kenny and Anthony both have a small crush on Leah. Leah, of course, is just Allie rearranged. Leah is completely unaware of their competing crushes and acts friendly to both, as many kids actually do. It's sort of refreshing for the show to have a character who is genuinely nice and never acts like a jerk or an asshole. So all the fans are thankful for Leah for making this universe a slightly better place. Anyway, the mutual kindness leads Anthony to resent Kenny and engage in some cruel online bullying. They trick Kenny and set him up for some embarrassing encounters. To fight back, Kenny joins Cobra Kai and grows close to Robbie. His arc is one of empowerment. He eventually gets to fight back by luring Anthony and the others into the library to pummel them. Also, apparently this middle school has a giant library that is completely empty in the middle of the school day. Anyway, Anthony gets in trouble and continues to reject the teachings of his father. In a really good scene, he tells Daniel that Mr. Miyagi doesn't really mean anything to him. The most unexpected fun of the season is when Ralph's daughter, Julia, shows up to play cousin Vanessa, who gives them a rundown on their bad parenting. You can tell Julia was enjoying this a lot. After a Johnny-inspired quiet and a smashed tablet, Anthony tries to make amends at the All Valley. In a scene that is very reminiscent of his sister doing the exact same thing the year before. Like seriously, this is apparently a LaRusso thing?
I know this is probably the last thing you want to hear right now, but I'm really sorry.
I guess I just wanted to say that I'm sorry, okay, for all the shit I did.
Talk about history repeating itself indeed. Anthony apologizes and wants to make things right. However, unlike Sam and Aisha, there is no prior bond between Anthony and Kenny. Kenny doesn't believe Anthony is sorry. He's ready to fight back.
Because you're going to be in a world.
Ah yes, Terry Silver's influence indeed. Perhaps the most welcome expansion in character development is from Tori. It's not a justification of her actions, but a deeper look into what causes her to act the way she does. Even her initial confrontations with Amanda, for the first time, feel more three-dimensional. You can understand her quick-to-anger and aggressive demeanor. It's like her world is a vice, slowly closing in ever tighter, and she's constantly fighting back against it. I honestly don't know why this is the first time that feeling really connects, but maybe it's because it's a character other than Sam, and we can see it more in the context of her daily life. After some intervention by Kreese, there's a slow developing bond or at least understanding between Tori and Amanda. As it turns out, Amanda too was once an angry teenage girl. She wants to end the rivalry. Needless to say, Sam isn't thrilled by the idea. As part of the cross-training, Sam has been working with Johnny. In her most universally relatable moment in the series so far, she was being pressured into a planned-out life by her parents. College, career, all of it. It's a life plan that she has no part of. Connecting with Johnny is her way of pushing back against her parents, just to be her own person for once. The moments are good, but also reveal the problem the show has now. It has gotten so big with so much going on and so many storylines and characters that many end up feeling half-developed. Consider Samantha. Her connection to Johnny is a big part of her arc through the entire season. She's drawn to him because she doesn't want to just follow her parents. The problem is they don't actually have much interaction together. There's these scenes on the rooftop and a brief line in another scene, and that's about it. In Miguel's parallel scenes, he has a lot of time with Daniel. They're fixing cars, training, a lot of that stuff. He even gets a Miyagi-Do headband. Sam and Johnny don't have that. Where's the banter back and forth? Where's their deeper bonding? We're being told she wants to train with Johnny rather than getting that authentic connection. Still, flipping the bottle cap was probably her greatest moment of the show so far. She ultimately seeks advice on what to do about Tori, bringing the surprise appearance of the season. It was wonderful to see Aisha again, and the story she tells is heartwarming. I have to admit though, this scene feels more like it's tying up loose ends.
I struck first.
Just like Johnny taught you.
My parents moved me here to get me away from the karate drama. It can't stop me from using the lessons I learned from Sensei Lawrence. I set my own terms. Set yours.
The end. It really does feel like this was to wrap up Aisha's storyline in the show. Sam seems to take the exact opposite lesson of what she was saying, however. Instead of setting terms to try and get along, she agrees to let Tori back in school to have total power over her. In a rather incredible scene that I actually had to watch twice to grasp what was happening, Sam makes clear to Tori that she's going to own her ass. She will have complete control over Tori. It's an amazing performance from Mary, especially the way it ends with her ever subtle smirk. Damn, this is Samantha on fire. After going through hell, there can be real pleasure in flipping the script and having control over the person who tormented you. Though this moment suffers the same problem that her interactions with Johnny did. This scene, shocking and powerful as it is, feels like a setup with no payoff. Sam literally says,
"I'm coming for you, bitch."
but then proceeds to never actually come for her. She wants to own Tori's ass, but then just lets it be. Where's the payoff? Where's the moment where she does come for her and makes Tori regret everything she did? Why does Sam do all this if she isn't gonna follow through? Set up with zero payoff. Again, this show is just getting so big it can't cover everything. And that brings us to Hawk. He definitely has the best redemptive arc. I loved his plan to build the platform. In the end, he was the one that brought the dojos together. He takes a very traumatic hit mid-season. He decides to join Miyagi-Do, and then, in a moment of awareness, realizes,
I know who I am now. Who's that? You guys didn't win this whole fucking thing.
everything about this is amazing, and he proves why he's my favorite character. The only problem is, for an All-Valley champion, his story is pretty light. His moments are in episodes 1, 5, 6, and then 9 and 10 at the tournament. Sure, he's there in other episodes, he pushes Kenny around, though that's as much about Kenny as anything. He joins Miyagi-Do in episode 6, but then we never actually see him in Miyagi-Do until the tournament. He's on the screen in other episodes, but he only has lines like,
I guess the moon's not coming.
It's like the show doesn't have room for everything, and major characters are just left sitting there with nothing to do. Dimitri does come to console him after the head shaving, but then what about Johnny and Miguel? Where are they? Are they going to let him sit there and wallow to himself? It's a little disheartening to think that, but their story is off to recruit a girl. Again, it's just the show is so big they can't cover everything. The tournament itself is a mixed bag. It's the most anticipated and biggest All-Valley tournament ever, but it also feels like the smallest. It was almost claustrophobic. One of the best shots in the entire franchise is the opening shot of the All-Valley in the Karate Kid. As they walk through the arena, matches are going on everywhere, and the camera pans back to this massive moment. This tournament was tiny in comparison. Even the Season 1 tournament felt bigger. Carrie Underwood's singing during the preliminary matches was fun, but felt like an attempt to hide the tournament as much as anything else. Whatever the reason, it is a letdown. Now, the competition promised surprises, and it certainly delivered. The female bracket was a good addition, but the skills competition and the overall winner situation was a little confusing. It was never really clear how any of it worked. We're just informed that such dojo is ahead and they need to win these matches to win overall. The ambiguity makes it harder for the audience to follow. It's more like false suspense. That also goes for Miguel'S Fall. It was a crazy emotional moment that turned out to be no big deal. It's a cheat. More false suspense. His decision not to fight is disheartening. You want to yell, "Forget Johnny, just do it for yourself." But then again, as far as I can tell from the scoring system, Miyagi-Do could only win overall if they won both championships. Eagle Fang was out as soon as Tori made the finals. So if Miguel had beaten Hawk in the semifinals, Cobra Kai would have won the overall by default, as neither Miyagi-Do nor Eagle Fang could get enough points to surpass them. But then again, if Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang had actually entered as a single dojo, Miyagi Fang, they would have had enough points together to easily beat Cobra Kai. That's a lame letdown for both Johnny and Daniel. Either way, Hawk wins in a surprise and Tori wins as well. I think there's an interesting setup that the two children of the previous champions both ended up as second place finishers. There's something else in store for them in the future. Certainly, history took a different course as Robbie reunited with Johnny. As for Tori's tainted win, I'll cover that more in the future. It's rather crushing for her because it does feel like she can never have a genuine victory. It also sucks to think the All-Valley tournament can be corrupted. You'd hope it would stay fair. Is everything about the tournament tainted now? As for the capstone scenes, it's an interesting twist to see Kreese arrested, but for something he didn't do. There's some deeper problems with Stingray that I may cover later, but it's not pleasant that he was the one doing all this. Otherwise, it made perfect sense that Terry Silver would push Kreese out. That's what you do in Cobra Kai. You shed your weakness. John Kreese was Terry's weakness. He's out of the picture now. Looking forward to Chosen and Daniel kicking some ass together. Bring it on, there's a lot to come. If you're subscribed, you're gonna get it all. Have a great day, I'll see you at the next watch party.